How are you? I'm just waiting for Facebook to catch up. I think I'm live, so that's good. I
Yeah.
just wanted to pop on firstly to say happy Friday, and also share with you a really powerful tool that I use both myself but also with my clients. So obviously, if you're popping on live, then feel free to say hey. I'm just going to stay in flow for now for anybody that's watching back on the replay. So essentially, as a money mindset coach, I often get asked by my clients, because we know in order to attract more abundance into our life, we have to be in a state of receiving. So if we are currently operating from a place of lack and scarcity and fear, then we're only going to be able to manifest more of the same. Which is a bit of a catch-22, isn't it? It's a bit of a dilemma when you're trying to attract more abundance in and yet all you feel is broke. So I'm going to share a tool with you today, which is going to help you to tap into that feeling of abundance at any point when you need it. Because we know that the law of vibrations actually comes before the law of action. So having that feeling of abundance around you all the time, even when your reality, hi Jane, doesn't actually reflect it, is so important in manifesting less of what we don't want and more of what we do want. So I'm going to be sharing a technique with you today called a resource anchor, which is just super powerful at getting you into that, bringing you back to that state of abundance at any point when you need it. So, this is essentially creating a neurological connection between a stimulus and a response. So, anybody who I know, I attract a lot of other coaches. So, anybody who is familiar with Pavlov's work will know about his research into essentially ringing a bell. He had a set of dogs that he trained that every time he rang the bell, they would salivate because they would know that what comes next is food. So he essentially trained, them with a stimulus to respond in a certain way, which was to salivate. And he realized that this could be that our brain works in the same way. Sorry, I'm getting all sorts of pop-ups here, which is super annoying. Sorry about that. So he knew that our brain essentially works in the same way. You can provide a stimulus and it will respond in a certain way, which is why when you think about it in your everyday life, how sometimes when you smell a certain smell, it will remind you of a food or a moment or a something, or you hear a song and you're like, oh my God, this takes me back. I remember when I was like at this place in time, probably before kids. I was at this party, I was doing this thing, and that song can literally take you back, like you are still there, and it brings all the good feelings. That's essentially what we're going to be doing today, is creating that stimulus, so that we can replicate that really abundant state. So, what's important to note as well, I would say, just between us girls, is our brain doesn't know the difference between what is reality, what is the past, and what is a perceived state. So if you consider that at any point our brain is essentially recycling our thoughts from the day before, so 96% of your thoughts in any one day will be recycled from the day before. This is why when we relive the past and we go over our failures, and why we're always fearing the worst, it is so bad for us, because our brain doesn't know the difference between whether it's actually happening to us right now, or because it will still replicate those same emotions, feelings that we had at that point. So even though we're not in that state or that situation anymore, our brain will still be releasing the same stress hormones as if we were. And that's why it's so important to be mindful of the things that are triggering us in life. So if you're, scrolling on social media and all it is doing is making you feel like crap, or if you are watching the news and it's really getting you into a state of fear, you have to eliminate, you have to be discerning as a woman to know to protect your energy and know what it is that's triggering you, so that you can eliminate those triggers, because it is so bad for your mental health, but also for your physical well-being, because that will manifest over time into illness. If you're constantly in a state of fight and flight, fear, stress, emotions, like having those hormones, that cortisol hormones running through your body, is really damaging to your body. If you consider, the reason that we have these hormones, these stress hormones like cortisol, is to get us out of a situation really bloody quickly. When you need that quick injection of energy and that prompt action, if we're being chased by saber-tooth tigers, you need that quick boost of hormones and energy to get you the hell out of that situation. But sadly, what happens is, when you've had a past failure, when you're in a stressful situation, when you're surrounded by people that continually trigger you, your brain doesn't know the difference. So it's continually releasing this hormone and this stress into your body when it's not actually needed, because you're not going anywhere. And equally, there might not even be any perceived actual danger. It's just perceived danger in your mind because you're imagining the worst case scenario all the time. Your brain's still reacting as if you are in that current state. So that's just a tip from me, that you really have to be mindful of where you're allowing your thoughts to go, because you do have control over it, ladies. So what we're going to do though today is actually use that that pattern in our brains, use that something that's been created in our brain to keep us safe. It's the brain doing exactly what it should be doing and working in our favor, but rather than using it in a negative way, we're going to use it as a positive. So what I would love you to do is consider where you would like a resource anchor. So basically what this will do is, at any point in the day, so I use this with my clients, particularly if they are fearful of sales calls, or if there's particular situations in life where they know they're going to get in their own way. Essentially, they're going to get into a fearful state, they're going to get into a panic. It's going to affect their energy, how they're showing up. Maybe it's somewhere where they're about to present in front of something, maybe they're going to do some sort of speaking opportunity, or maybe they're about to jump on a sales call or do an Instagram live or something like this, and they need to alter their state to a more empowered state. So what we'll do first of all is decide where we want the anchor to be. So as I said before, we're going to create somewhere that we can essentially put a stimulus, apply a stimulus sorry, in order to evoke that response. So for me, a really obvious, we're going to do it through the form of touch. So, but equally scent can work. You can actually anchor these states through scent. So something I like to do when I'm trying to get into a really mindful state, maybe I'm about to do some journaling or some meditation, or really need to get into my creative feminine energy and flow, I'll light a candle, I'll get some incense, I'll do a bit of saging, and that works obviously on multiple levels because it also clears the air and clears the energy. But also if I'm like, I need to get into that present state, I'll use scent. So I've got essential oils that I'll use, candles that I'll light, sage that I'll use as well. But for this, the purpose of this activity, it's all around touch. So where on your body is somewhere that you can get to, that you're not going to accidentally engage at any point. So we don't want it on our face, because we touch our face hundreds of times a day. For me, a really obvious place is either on the shoulder, but which you can also use because it's a meridian point for EFT. So I've also got videos on how to use emotional freedom technique, otherwise known as tapping. So obviously look back through my page if you want to find those. So the shoulder blade is a great point for that. But for me, it's all around the hands, because for me obviously I'm a person that uses my hands quite a lot. I'm a big talker and I use a lot of gestures. But for me, to press, I'm not going to do it now because I'll obviously activate that anchor. But for me, my knuckles are a really obvious place for me to use to provide that stimulus. So I've got various support anchors on my hand. So I always use my left hand because my right hand is my dominant hand. So if I'm touching my left hand, it's with intention. I'm not going to accidentally do it. But yeah, so I essentially I've used this now as a resource anchor. So each knuckle has a different emotion connected to it that will invoke a different neurological response. So, but for somebody that doesn't have any, I would always encourage the middle knuckle to use that one as your really positive, empowered state anchor resource. So what we're going to do is we're going to invoke a memory of a time where you felt really, really abundant, like literally living your best life. There were no limits. You were feeling amazing. We're going to evoke that memory. We're going to really try and get into that state and really live that moment. And then when you go through it, as the peak of emotion really like moves through your body, where you are just like, yes, I've got this. I remember this time. It was amazing. I felt amazing. As I said, your brain doesn't know the difference between what is real and what is imagined. That's why our imagination is such a powerful tool available to us at any point. It can transport you from any crap low vibrational state you're in right now to an empowered state of endless possibilities and abundance. We need to use it more. This is where the power of visualization comes in. So again, I've got other videos on that, but we're going to get into that state. And when you've really hit the peak of that emotion and you're just feeling it through your body, you're reliving that moment, you've got all the feels, we're going to use this knuckle and press down for 10 to 15 seconds quite firmly. We're doing it with intention. And then before the energy starts to dissipate, so we're going to do that for 10 to 15 seconds, and then we are going to let it go before the energy dissipates from that memory. So that is literally the technique. It's super simple. It's available to you at any time. If you don't have a memory, because I sometimes get this with clients where they're like, I've never felt like that. So particularly when you're trying to invoke feelings of like confidence or self-assurance, if this isn't something that you can recall easily, then you can actually construct a memory. So this is where like future memories are really powerful as well. So if you've never had that time, but you can imagine what it feels like, to, you know, and you've got that very firm, this is why clarity around your goals is so important. Because if you've got a particular time, like I'm in launch mode right now, so for me, I'm really leaning into all of these senses, all of these resources that I have available to me, and really imagining with clarity what it's going to feel like. So, you know, when I've hit that milestone, when I've had a successful launch, when I've called in lots of incredible women that I cannot wait to work with, because coaching is the double blessing for me. So I've got a particular moment, a particular event that I am focusing on, and it's like imagining all of the women together at my in-person event around the table together, having, you know, being supported by their sisters and really having that intentional time with them. I know it's going to feel amazing. I cannot wait. And for me, it's already happened, because I have got such certainty in that I can already evoke those feelings of what it's going to be like at that table. It's going to be so exciting. I've already thought of like the gifts that I'm going to be giving out, of the like atmosphere and energy that I'm going to be creating, how those people are going to feel, because we know the energy is contagious. So as I'm giving it out and pouring it into my clients, they're going to be doing the same back to me. So I can already feel how that energy is going to be amplified. It's going to be 10x. Like even just thinking of it can really like evoke that emotion in my body, and it's exciting. So even if you don't have a memory right now, you can construct a memory very easily. So what I would love for you to do, because we're going to do it together, is really to get grounded in your body, to really connect with yourself through breath. So this is where like I'd love you to take in like a few deep breaths together. So, and like in for 3, hold, out for 3. So like, and again, like take that really intentional breath, really connect with yourself. Just take that deep breath in for 3, hold for 3, and then out for 3. And then what I want you to do is just quieten yourself, close your eyes, because it always helps us to sort of quieten the distractions, and really think of a time when you have felt so abundant. What is that memory for you? Really bring that forefront now of mind, and you know, a time where you felt limitless, a time where you just knew that there was so much abundance available to you. What is that memory? And I want you to float down into your body as if you were there right now. See what you saw, feel what you felt, hear what you had, and really allow that memory to wash over you. Let it flow through your body, all of those great times, that great energy. Maybe you had people around you, maybe you could physically see things. And then what I want you to do is make it 10 times stronger, 10 times bolder, 10 times brighter. So all of those sensory things that are coming up for you, whether it was somebody around you saying something, whether it was people having a great time, really make that louder, bolder, brighter. And when you've hit that peak state where you are really embodying those great feelings and emotions, I want you to go ahead and take your hand and press down for 10 to 15 seconds on your knuckle. So really anchor that good feeling in, really allow yourself to feel that possibility of abundance when anything was possible, where money flowed, where you felt excited, where everything was great. And then once that feeling starts to dissipate, just let go. So if you've done that now, let me know in the comments how you're feeling. But essentially, that is the technique. So you have now anchored in that state and you've really cemented that. You've created that neurological connection between that stimulus, which is your anchor resource. Every time you hold down on that knuckle now, you should be able to recall that memory and that feeling of abundance and limitlessness. And what I would love to do is invite you to do, is every time you are in those states, I mean, it's always great anyway to anchor in these states because it helps you be really present in the moment. So whenever I'm in a feeling of gratitude, what I love to do is use like a different knuckle, because I've got one for gratitude, and really anchor it in. So hold down, really live, breathe, embody, appreciate, really feel that gratitude for that moment. So whether it's with my kids, whether it's, you know, something that I've achieved, I'm really good at acknowledging those moments in life. Because you've got to have the lows to have the highs. So, but what I would invite you to do is every time you then get those moments of abundance, is continue to stack that on top of that anchor, because all that will do is strengthen that connection, and it will be easier and easier for you to recall those feelings in the future. So just kind of looping back, so whenever my clients then tell me, how do I get into that law of vibration? How do I tap into the law of vibration before I get to the law of attraction and really tap into that feeling of abundance? It's through techniques like this. So I hope that you found that useful. Let me know in the comments, or wherever you're watching this, what came up for you. What were those memories? Because again, you can just continually stack the same or different emotions and memories onto that positive anchor resource, and you can recall it at any time. You can also use it for things like confidence, for any time that you want to get into a really empowered state. Essentially, I'd love to encourage you to have different emotions, or just put them all onto the same anchor. It's absolutely fine to just really be able to change and alter your state. Be empowered with your mindset, with your mood, with your emotions, because we know that thoughts create things, and it affects the way we're showing up energetically, the amount of inspired action that we're taking. So having a resource on your side and knowing that at any point you can change your state will absolutely allow you to be in that empowered state where the universe is not happening to you, it's happening for you, and equally you are in charge. You can change the way that things are going for you right now by changing your energy, changing your thoughts, and essentially then your outcome. So I hope you've enjoyed that today. Let me know your thoughts, let me know what came up for you, what memories you're going to be using for your anchors, and I hope you have a fantastic day.